Welcome to the Hockey Writers Prospect Corner, a show with our top prospects writing crew, bringing you the latest news, analysis, scouting reports, mocks, rankings, and much more. From the World Juniors to the NHL draft floor, from the farm to the NHL, our team covers everything that happens in the world of prospects. So sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready for Prospect Corner.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Prospect Corner here at the Hockey Writers. I'm your host, Matthew Zator, once again joined in by my co-host, fellow prospects expert, Peter Baracchini. This week, we're a duo. Devin is having fun at a wedding this weekend, so we're just two people on the line today, and we're going to have some fun talking some prospects. Memorial Cup is coming up, so that's going to be the focus of this show. We'll also talk a bit about prospect news and signings that have happened over the last few days. So we'll have some fun here anyway without Devin, but have some fun at that wedding there. So
I was just about to say, I took a spot doing the whole salute thing right there. So
there we go. We got that down. But before we get started here, this week's show is of course being brought to you by the Morning Skate, daily newsletter delivered to your inbox Monday to Friday. Jam-packed the best hockey stuff on the planet. Daily dose of the NHL news, rumors, history, funnies, quizzes, a little hockey fun information brought to you every day of the week by the Hockey Writers. You'll see a link in the show description down there. So definitely check that out. It's a lot of fun every morning. Get your coffee and take a look at that. So let's get into a Memorial Cup preview here. It's a little later on, I believe. Usually it's a little sooner than this in normal circumstances without all the COVID stuff that kind of pushed it back. But we have it this year, which we didn't have last year, which is great. We missed that tournament because of all COVID, but we have it this year. So it's going to be fun to talk about it. That's all starts in a couple days, June 20th, Hamilton Bulldogs versus the St. John Sea Dogs, who of course are the hosts of this year's tournament. Got eliminated in the first round, but because they're a host, they are in it, and we'll see how they do. But that, and then we'll come to a close June 29th with crowning the champions this year. So Peter, let's start with those two teams that are going to start the tournament off, the St. John Sea Dogs and the Hamilton Bulldogs. Start with St. John. Any players that we, to watch in this tournament? Like I say, they were eliminated in the first round, but, we've seen it in the past. The hosts come in, surprised, but what are some players to watch in this time?
yeah, I think for the Sea Dogs too, I think because, they made the playoffs, they're also the host. I think they would have liked to gone a little bit farther in the QMJHL playoffs, but, it is what it is. I mean, they got eliminated, but now they have a chance to kind of redeem themselves and, take the time off to regroup, work on some new plays, continue with the practicing and prep for this moment, because now they're the host nation and they're going up against the OHL champs. So going to be really interesting. In terms of actual players to watch, you got to look at William Dufour. Just absolutely lights out in the season with 116 points in the regular season. And yeah, just absolutely dominated. There's also, the defensive, highly mobile duo of Jeremy Poirier and William Villeneuve on the back end. You also have Ryan Francis. You have Jan Kuznetsov, who's a very steady shutdown defender who may look to shut down those top names like Mason McTavish on the Bulldogs. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, those are some of the top names that should be kept an eye on for the Sea Dogs, because, they may not have the flair offensive power like their counterparts, like the Shawinigan Cataractes, which we'll get to later on, or even the names that the Oil Kings or even Bulldogs possess. But they're a pretty good team. They shouldn't be taken lightly because, they were eliminated. They're the host nation. They made the playoffs. Look at them to probably make an upset or two, because we've seen some of those teams that make it or the host nations where either they didn't make the playoffs or got eliminated first round or early on. They surprise. So we should expect the unexpected from the Sea Dogs.
Yeah, the Sea Dogs are, they're obviously the underdogs in this tournament, because they've got three powerhouse teams that of course won each of their leagues. So They're going to be in tough, but like you said, Dufour is a big name there that had a heck of a season. Like you said, 116 points, and New York Islanders prospect. So, I mean, he'd had a great season, and he did score. He scored 2 goals, 4 points in the 5-game loss to the what team do they play? I wrote it down. Oceanic, Rimouski Oceanic. Lost in the first round 3-2. So it wasn't like they were blown out in that first round either. I mean, it was a close series, and Dufour had a good series there. Number of other guys, Riley Bozo had 4 points. Rathles, Christens, Ansons had 5 points. So they got some guys that had a good tournament. Dufour had 31 shots on goal in the 5 games. It's like he had a heck of it. That's the next one up was Jeremy Poirier with 24. Defenseman. Yeah. That's pretty good too, having 24 shots in the 5 games. So they shouldn't be taken lightly. Like you said, they're a good team. They made the playoffs. It's not like they didn't. That wouldn't be good. Be the host. He didn't even make the playoffs, but and had some players that stood out. So definitely don't sleep on the Sea Dogs here. Let's talk about the Hamilton Bulldogs now. I mean, oh my gosh, the season they had and the names they have on this team. Just a couple of them: Mason McTavish, Jake Neighbors. I mean, those are 2 of the big names. What do you think about the Bulldogs? I mean, they have quite a few players that you want to watch in this tournament.
Yeah. Especially Logan Morrison leading the way with he had 100 points in the regular season, 39 in the OHL playoffs. So to see that kind of big step that he took from 45 the previous year, it was a really great sign. But you also have Jan Mishak, Arbor Jeka. I believe that's how you pronounce it. If that is wrong, I'm sorry, but he broke out with 16 points, and he's more of a steady defensive presence, very physical, and he showed no mercy, especially in that final series against the Windsor Spitfires. That was he made his presence felt, and also leading the way. Nathan Steos. I believe he's the captain of the team. Just showing the leadership, even though he's an overager right now, he's doing a great job keeping everyone composed, doing what he needs to do to try and win or bring home the second trophy that they want, the Memorial Cup. The first trophy's in the books, but now you got to worry about the other one. And I think this whole group has come together very nicely. Very resilient, dominated throughout the whole entire time. I think they had the only struggle that they had was against the Spitfires. I believe they swept 4 straight series, if I'm not mistaken, or 3 straight series. So to see that happen, that dominance right now, it's going to be really entertaining to see this group just assert their dominance in the Memorial Cup right now.
Well, we didn't mention another guy, Avery Hayes. He had 14 goals and 34 points. He just behind Logan Morrison with the 39 points in the playoffs. I mean, these numbers are insane. I mean, 39 points in 19 games for Morrison, 34 and 16 for Avery Hayes. Yeah. They have quite a few names that you could, and Ryan Winterton too. Seattle Kraken. Him. Yeah. Seattle Kraken draft pick. So there's quite a few guys that you could watch in this tournament. If you're fans of teams, as well, and watching these prospects, the Anaheim Ducks, Seattle Kraken, Misak's Montreal Canadiens as draft pick. It's, there's quite a few guys. And then you got some undrafted like Logan Morrison, who's an overager. He's in his 3rd year of eligibility. We'll see if he's drafted, and, he putting a pretty good case up for himself in the playoffs here. So if they win a Memorial Cup, it's going to really solidify, and he's a good player in there too. So lots of great names on this team that you're going to want to watch. And I think this tournament's going to be really fun because there's a lot of guys that they're exciting. So and even Bulldogs are just one.
Even Artem Grushnikov too. I mean, kind of like Zheka, very underrated defense, or very strong defensively, not so much on the offensive side of things because he's only got 2 points during the playoffs. But man, can he shut down and play a solid, steady defensive game? He's been key for them throughout this whole entire time too. So bit further. Obviously, you're not going to rely on him on production, but the way that he's played, I think, is very underrated.
Mm-hmm. And their goaltender, Marco Constantini, I mean, got a great team in front of him, but, he's only has two losses and an OTL in the playoffs. So it was all against the Spitfires. So.
Yeah.
So he had, that's the goaltending is going to come to play. But I mean, the thing is, this team is just so strong. You just have to be a solid enough, make the saves you need, and probably going to win. So we'll see how that all plays out for the Bulldogs. Let's go to another powerhouse, WHL champions, Edmonton Oil Kings, another team that kind of flew through the playoffs until they got to the Seattle Thunderbirds. Had a little bit, lost a couple games there, but Oil Kings are another stacked team. So who are you watching from this team that has a bunch of names, great names on it too?
I mean, who are you not watching? I mean, Genther, Dylan Genther leading the way with 21 points, 13 goals. Jake Neighbors, 14 assists in 19 games. Caden Gooley looking like a very, I can't say anything bad about his game because he's just been absolutely flawless. And, the developments that he took to improve his game and be a factor, it's just looking well for the Montreal Canadiens. Luke Prokop coming in, providing some steady presence, middle of the defensive unit. Justin Sordiff. I mean, I could go on and on about how deep this team really is because all their top players are their top players at this point. And, they made the acquisitions to make a deep run for this very reason. So the depth that they have, the skill, the quality, the physicality, they're probably, it's kind of hard to say they're the team to beat with only 4 teams, but you would have to think that they're probably the favorite going in.
Yeah. I mean, them and the Bulldogs, I think, are the two teams that you're going to be like, we'll get to our predictions in a second, but they're big teams and they're all stacked up with NHL talent. We'll see if Dylan Genther is healthy enough to play. He was injured, I believe, going into game 5. So, he's been a big part of that team. So hopefully he's healthy enough to play and play well enough. So, I mean, even at 50%, I think Genther is a pretty good player. So
yeah.
Yeah. And then you got Carter Such, who's been a really good player for them. And I believe he's undrafted. So, I mean, they got guy Jacob Demick, another guy. My gosh, they, like you say, there's just so many names on this team. And so we didn't mention Sebastian Kosa, who's their goaltender. Yeah. So we talked extensively on the grind line that just came out this morning. So Kosa is going to be counted upon. Again, he's a goaltender, doesn't need to be great for a team like this, but to just solid enough to win. And he's a great goaltender too. So I would say probably the best goaltender in this tournament. We'll see if that comes into play as a factor in any of these games. This is a short tournament. It's not like you can lose one game and you're behind the 8 ball already. So we'll see how all it plays out. Let's get to the QMJHL champions, the Shawinigan Cataractes, who had a good run and won against the Charlottetown Islanders, who I believe it was you that predicted they were going to make it to the Memorial Cup. So they almost did. The Cataractes made it there. Who on this team are you watching from the Q?
You got to look at the tandem of Maverick Bork and Xavier Bourgault. I mean, just absolutely dominant as a duo up the middle of the ice for the Cataractes. I mean, you look at them, they're leading 1-2, 25 points of Bork, 22 for Bourgault. And, I've always took note of both of them. They play a steady two-way game. Bourgault has that playmaking mentality, but you're seeing his goal scoring prowess on display at the moment. I mean, he's tied for the team lead in goals with Pierrick Dubé. So he's definitely not afraid to shoot. I know we've talked about his playmaking abilities in the past, but the fact that he's able to shoot and he's got that goal scorer mentality and taking charge right now shows that he has the potential to kind of be if you need a timely goal, he's going to be the guy to get you that extra tally, especially in a dying moment or a key situation. Power play, overtime, you're looking for the puck on his stick because he's absolutely on fire right now.
Oh yeah, they're both at the tops of their leaderboards here in scoring. So both 70, like Maverick Borka, 70 shots on goal in the playoffs. I mean, that's Pierre Dubé, 70 shots as well. 12 goals, tied with Bourgault. I mean, it's again lots of big guys coming to play. I mean, all these teams have their stars leading the way, which is what you want and is what you need to get to this point. So all these guys are doing it. And for a team, the Montreal Canadiens, I mean, if you're a fan of the Canadiens, watch this Memorial Cup, because you got quite a few prospects in here that, if you want to see how they're playing in a high pressure packed tournament, watch this, because there's quite a few guys that may be playing on the Canadiens in the next few years. So lots of fun prospects in this tournament for sure. And the Cataractes have a few of them here. So we'll see how they kind of play out this as well. So let's ask a question though. I mean, of all of them here on the road to the Memorial Cup, who has impressed you the most? I mean, there's a lot to choose from, but who has kind of stepped up that you didn't think would be a big part of this tournament?
I'm going to say Ryan Winterton. Obviously, I'm not going to pick, Logan Morrison because of the season that he had, Mason McTavish, the go-to players. I think Ryan Winterton has provided some steady secondary scoring for the Bulldogs, and he's chimed in or chipped in with a timely goal every now and then. So the fact that he was able to find that consistency and, 19 points in 18 games, just over a point per game, isn't nothing to laugh at. I mean, he's a fantastic playmaker, strong two-way game. Obviously it adds more depth on the wing, on the right side with Avery Hayes, who's just been absolutely dominant as well. So gives them another option to move up and down the lineup. And if again, it's a key situation, he's got the smarts to try and locate the big names. So I've been really impressed with his play so far. Obviously, again, not known much of it as a shooter, but he's definitely able to find the seams and find his teammates perfectly. So I've been really happy to see him play.
Yeah, I know Sean has had him in his prospect reports for the Kraken a few times. So he's been a pretty big for a team that doesn't have a lot of prospects right now. I mean, obviously because they're a first year team, but Winterton's one of their top prospects now, and probably couldn't say that a few months ago. So he's really come to play in this tournament or in the playoffs so far, and we'll see if he can kind of continue that in the Memorial Cup here. He's got a lot of players that can help him out in that. So we'll see if Winterton can do that. I've mentioned him before, but Carter Such has really impressed me for the Oil Kings, and on a team that has a ton of NHL stars and NHL talent prospect wise. He's stood out. Like I say, he has 12 goals, one behind Dylan Guenther, and he's been key throughout the playoff run. And again, he is not drafted. Edmonton Oil Kings draft pick from 4th round in 2016. So I mean, he could potentially get somewhat of a NHL contract, not an NHL contract, but maybe an AHL one. And we'll see. A lot of guys have gone on to do this. Toporowski just signed with the Providence Bruins from the Kamloops Blazers, and he had a heck of a season. So someone's already kind of got his name. So we'll see how many others kind of follow suit after these Memorial Cup, because there's a few overagers that have really impressed. So I'm sure scouts are watching that as well. Let's get to some predictions, which we always have fun with here. See if we go back and see if we're right, because a few of us were right on who got here. I mean, I'm pretty sure I picked the Cataractes to make it to the final here in the Memorial Cup. We all picked the Oil Kings, obviously, because they've been the strongest all season long. Bulldogs, we all pretty much picked them too. I think we were just a few of us were wrong with the Q. Was it the Q or the OHL?
Yeah.
It was the QMJHL.
I picked the Islanders, and they made the final. They just missed out, and I wasn't impartial to picking the Spitfires or the Bulldogs. So I think I think I'm kind of out of the mix there.
I know. Devin was out early with the London Knights, so
yeah.
we'll see who's right. I'll ask Devin for his predictions. Maybe just we'll throw it on Twitter what his predictions are, because by the time we talk next week, I believe it'll be over. No, we could have one more show. So we'll ask him for his predictions. He'll have a little bit to kind of chew on because there'll be a few games done. But yeah, we'll get his predictions next week because the tournament doesn't end until the 29th. So we'll be right in the middle of it when we get together again. So, but let's do our predictions here. Let's start with the first one. Who will be in the final game of the Memorial Cup?
I am going with the Edmonton Oil Kings and the Hamilton Bulldogs. I mean, both teams just scream the physicality, the goal scoring. They have everything at every single position that just makes them absolutely so deep to get them to this point. And again, you talk about the key players of stepping up. The top six is playing like the top six should for both teams. And it's going to be really interesting to see what the X factor is going to be, because not much seems to separate the two at this point. Mm-hmm. I mean, except maybe Sebastian Cossa being a first round selection in net over Constantini, but at the same time, he's been lights out good, backstopping the Bulldogs to this point. So the fact that he's only lost very few games to this point shows that he has the mindset to help this team get over the hump and win possibly a second championship or second title in the CHL.
Yeah, I'm not going to go away from that because, I mean, the Bulldogs and the Oil Kings are probably, like I said before, they're the two strongest teams in this tournament. And, I mean, you never know. The Cataractes could surprise that. Like I said, we talked about a few of the guys there that could potentially do stuff. They could come and be in the final too. So, but the Bulldogs and Oil Kings are just so strong, and they've been strong throughout. I mean, there's not much weaknesses to both teams unless, Genther has a bit of, if he does return, which there was talk that he was just taken out as precautionary, that day to day, most likely he will be here. So, but how, I mean, I would say most players aren't 100% in the playoffs. So yeah. He probably won't be 100%. But like I said, even a 50% Genther is better than nothing. So just having him in the lineup is a big deal. So I'm going with Hamilton and Edmonton in the final as well. So we'll see if we're right on that. Now, who will win it? Who will win the Memorial Cup between those two teams if they're both in the final here?
Can I be impartial on this one, like the OHL? But I don't know. I want you to go first. I want to get back to me on this one. I want to hear what you have to say first.
I'm gonna say the Hamilton Bulldogs are gonna be the Memorial Cup champions this year. Like I say, they just have so many weapons. I'm not saying the Oil Kings don't, but I just feel like the Bulldogs have a bit more, maybe just a little bit of an edge on them in their forward group. And just looking at McTavish alone, he's, like I've said in the past, he's an NHL player already. Like he's got all the tools to be playing in the NHL now, and he's shown it in the playoffs, in the regular season. And they got Jake Neighbors, who will probably be in the NHL next season as well. I mean, they just got so many guys that, I mean, the goaltending may come down to the goaltending. Like, Cossa may be able to outbattle, but we'll see. But I think the Bulldogs. I'll go Bulldogs for the Memorial Cup champions here.
Yeah, no, okay. I'm not just saying this because I told you to go first. I was thinking Bulldogs too, and I think maybe, just maybe, Sebastian Cossa may be the difference maker, and maybe may fall back to where his numbers were previously at the beginning of the season, where maybe it's just too much with the amount of shots and the amount of chances that the Bulldogs can make, and especially quick for them to quickly transition off the rush with the powerhouse forward units that they have. It's going to be difficult to contain them. And I think maybe it may overwhelm him. And I think that would give the Bulldogs the edge because of the amount of shots that they're able to take. I believe Mason McTavish is just under 100 shots taken in the playoffs alone. So if he's going to get peppered quite a bit when the Oil Kings are on defense, it's going to come down to him, but it maybe, I mean, he's looked great so far to this point, but I wonder if maybe fatigue is going to set in with him. Then again, can set in within a lot of players, but knowing how there's a little bit more, scrutiny with his game, given his status and as a first round selection, maybe it may start to, creep in just a little bit, but I'm going to say Bulldogs, and I think they're going to win it in overtime.
Yeah, I'm saying overtime. That's going to overtime. And these two teams are just so even. It really reminds me of what we're seeing in the playoffs in the Stanley Cup final right now. Because, the Lightning and the Avalanche are pretty even. And there may be just some little things that could potentially be more between the two. And it feels like the same type of thing going here. And goaltending, again, we're talking about goaltending, but it could be the difference, right? So we'll see. Yeah. And the thing is, one thing the Bulldogs have to do or the Oil Kings have to do is stay off, make sure the Bulldogs don't get on the power play, because their power play has been pretty good. You got Morrison's got 5 power play goals, Avery Hayes 5 power play goals, McTavish 7, Winterton 5. I mean, there's, I would say don't, although both teams are going to be good on the power play, but it looks like the Bulldogs are a bit better.
And don't leave Mason wide open, because that's you're asking for trouble if that's going to happen.
Yeah, don't do that, because like I say, McTavish is basically an NHL player right now, and he probably shouldn't be in the OHL right now.
No, and not even close.
But we'll see who does that. Now, let's get to the tournament game winner. Who's gonna score the game winner? We're gonna get really nitpicky here, or again get down to it. Who's gonna score the overtime winner? Because we both said it's going to overtime. So let's choose a guy.
Even if it's not going to overtime, I'm picky, and if it happens in regulation, although whatever have you, I'm picking Mason McTavish to be the guy to score the game winner. I mean,
that's pretty easy choice.
Do I need to explain myself? No. I mean, you saw the goal that he scored that just went off the bar and in, and you heard the ping throughout the broadcast against the Spitfires, and you saw the emotion on his face. If you need a goal, you're going to get it from Mason McTavish, and he shined and he rose to the occasion when he needed to. And he was a little bit snake bitten at that point, but he kept getting his chances, and it was about to go in, and look what happened.
Yeah. He's got a couple game winners in the playoffs so far, so it's not like he hasn't done it yet. So I don't want to, the guy that has the most 3 game winners, I'm going to say his name horribly, Arbor Zekash, or
Jeka.
He's a defenseman. He's got 3 of his 6 goals are game winners. So I'm going to go off the board and say he's going to score the game winner. So
why not?
Why not? He's had pretty good luck being the hero in the past here. So I'm going to go with him, Jeka. So for the game winner there. Now let's get to our Memorial Cup MVP, which is the bigger deal. Who's going to dominate this tournament and win the Memorial Cup MVP?
Kind of like you with the game winner, I'm going to go off the board. I'm going to say the MVP should go to Marco Costantini. Sorry. Again, he's gotten them to this point. I mean, obviously the offense has been going because they won 3 straight series where they went 4-0. But even when the toughest test that they faced against the Spitfires, he stood tall in that. And I think maybe he's going to be the one to help lead the charge and be that backstop, because you're going up against 2 powerhouse teams in the Cataractes and the Oil Kings. They're going to face a lot of shots as well. And I think he's got the mentality, the mindset, and the poison net to deliver during the most important stage of junior hockey at this point. So I think I'm going to give it to Costantini.
Yeah, well, goaltenders are going to, like I say, goaltending is going to be a big deal in this tournament. And like Costa's the more, premium one of the group, but whoever's going to win, it's going to have great goaltending, because they're going to go up against some big weapons on both sides. So, or any team they're going to face, they're going to have to deal with some big guys. So, but I'm going to take low hanging fruit and say Mason McTavish being the tournament MVP, because I think he's just going to dominate the Memorial Cup, because but it's like just how good he is and how much he's already kind of shown that in the NHL, and it just kind of, moved back into junior and just been that dominant guy. And he's played a ton of hockey in the last year though. So, I mean, if fatigue could come in, I don't know, but it doesn't look like he has yet. I think he's still going to be a big part of this tournament, and I'm going to go with him as being the tournament MVP and Memorial Cup MVP in the end here. So we'll see. We'll see who's going to be right on any of these predictions. Some of them are easier to choose than others, but I'd say the only one that was really easy was the teams will be in the final. But the other ones, it's like who's going to win each was tough. But it's going to be fun either way. We're gonna watch a really good week and a half or 2 weeks. Ends up being about 2 weeks of hockey here, and then guess what's next? The NHL draft is just 6 days from the end of that tournament. So we're gonna have Memorial Cup. We're gonna have the draft. So lots of fun stuff coming up for anyone that follows prospects and hockey in general. So look out for that. It's going to be fun. Let's move into our second half of the show. Prospect news and signings that have happened in the last few days. Some big ones, some maybe not so big, and some that could happen. Let's start with the man that's been kind of, his name's been thrown around probably for a month or two, for a while here. Started with the Edmonton Oilers, kind of rumored. Andrei Kuzmenko, big KHL free agent out of Russia, has been parading around. He's been around, going to different cities and talking to different teams. Recently met with the Vancouver Canucks and the Edmonton Oilers. The last one with the Canucks yesterday, and went around the city. It was great. It was sunny, not raining, because it's been raining over here in the last bit. So he got an actual nice day to kind of walk around Vancouver and then talk to management and all that. So let's ask this question though. He met with the Canucks, Oilers, and 2 other US based teams. Who do you think is the best fit for this guy? I mean, he's ripped up the KHL. He looks like he could be an NHL player, but who would represent the best fit for him moving forward?
Yeah, this is really tough because European free agents are, a mixed bag. Some of them will pan out, some of them won't. Obviously, the way that Kuzmenko has played, he put up the numbers, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the NHL. You would hope that if you're signing with him or you're signing him, that you would probably get that same level. But then again, that's difficult to come by. Even if he doesn't pan out to be that same type of effective goal scorer that he was, he'll still be a really great middle six option as a second or third liner. To me, obviously you're looking at some of the top teams that are looking for help, like the Canucks and Oilers. I would also think that because, I'm also looking up on, teams that he's met with, and apparently during the playoffs, I believe it was the first round, Kuzmenko met with the Golden Knights, Hurricanes, and Predators as well. So I would say maybe the Nashville Predators could be an underdog team because, you don't know the situation of what's happening with Filip Forsberg. I believe he's still, needing a new contract. There's going to be a hole on the left wing side if he's gone. Your next depth is Yakov Trenin and Ilya Tovlin. Maybe you try and reel them in and say, hey, we're going to do the best that we can to line you up, give you a chance to succeed. And we know how underrated the Predators can be with, the offense that they're getting from their players. Anybody can step up at the right time. We saw how Tanner Jeannot surprised us here. So who knows? Maybe Kuzmenko could be a really great factor. And if he's dead set on being in a top 6 role, you can look to Edmonton. But Nashville may have some open spots as well, and he can get an audition in the top 6. And if he succeeds, I think he'll be a really nice fit for them as well.
Yeah, well, like you said, a lot of these European free agents, they either hit or miss. Artemi Panarin, you hope that you're going to get a guy like that every time, but
tough to get another
happen
Panarin
all the time, right?
Yeah.
Panarin was one of those guys that the Blackhawks signed out of free agency in Europe and look what he's become. He's become one of the top NHL players. So, I mean, you never know, but there for every Panarin, there's a Brunstrom. And I mean, Brunstrom was one of the big guys that everyone was kind of, talking to and wanted to win the sweepstakes. Red Wings ultimately did. Didn't end up being a horrible NHL player, but he didn't turn out to what everyone was hyping him up to be. So Kuzmenko is being hyped as being a Panarin type, maybe, but I don't think so. I think he'll end up being, like you said, good middle six guy, and he'll probably be an NHL player, but, temper some expectations because there's some holes in his game. So, but like with any prospect, I guess that's true. So we'll see how he kind of ends up being, and he probably wants to play in the NHL. He doesn't want to play in the AHL. So whatever team that's going to represent the best chance for him to do that, I think is another thing. Edmonton, like you said, Nashville will give him that chance. The Oilers will probably give him that chance. Playing with McDavid or Draisaitl is a pretty big carrot to work with. The Canucks have Vasily Podkolzin, who he played with in the KHL. I believe they were on the same line. So there's that connection there. There's the Ken Holland connection. Apparently he wanted to sign him when he was in Detroit. But he still was under KHL contract. There's a lot of factors here that could potentially sway him. So we'll see who he ultimately chooses. Apparently that's coming in the next week or so. So we may be able to talk about this next week of who he actually signed with and who ultimately gets the right to see if he actually does pan out to be a Panarin. And for the Canucks' sake, they do sign him, that he does, because they do need any prospect that they can that could potentially be impactful. So we'll see what happens there. Let's move to another Russian. We got a little bit of a theme here. The Rangers signed Vitaly Kravtsov to a one-year deal. And we all know the drama around him, and only a one-year deal. So there's a big question here. Will he play? Did they sign him to play for the Rangers next season? Or is this just a precursor to a trade so that he's easier to trade, in the off season? Now, what do you think? Do you think he plays, or is he going to get traded?
I honestly think it depends on what happens in the off season, because I'm just trying to figure out how it's going to work out, because I think Vatrano and Andrew Kopp are going to be free agents.
Yeah.
So that opens up the right-hand side. But then again, there's still that drama, not necessarily drama, but that, disconnect between player and the team. Maybe they just still find a trade route for him, and maybe they try to re-sign Andrew Kopp, or they try to re-sign Vatrano based on the success that they've had this season. So this is really difficult. I really don't know how this is going to pan out, but I'm not a betting man. I don't bet quite a bit, but maybe this is still a package where maybe they do have their eyes set on a right wing, maybe with term, and they try to use Kravtsov as leverage to try and get more stability on their right side. Who knows? Again, there are plenty of variables at this point. It's just, I for 1 year, maybe they do get the chance to showcase him and see what he can do. But then again, if they're still unimpressed, they could always trade him later down the line, because that contract is very, very cheap to move.
Well, yeah, it's under $1 million. And, they signed to 1 year. It was just weird. It was a 1 year, because it sounds like it just feels like it's a trade type thing, because if there was some confidence in both sides that they'd sign a longer term deal. So 1 year is pretty easy to trade and pretty easy to see what you want. He's still, I believe he'll be still an RFA after this. So he's still an RFA after this 1 year deal. So whoever gets him will still be able to negotiate something else with him. So we'll see if he'll probably be a part of a package. He's not going to be just a 1-for-1 type thing. So that's always been talking a JT Miller potential trade that Kravtsov could be involved in that. There's been other rumors about he'll be involved in certain other ones. So we'll see what happens with him, because it's an interesting thing to follow. Like you say, that disconnect between the team and player, I don't know, that could end up being the reason why he doesn't play for them. So it'll be interesting to follow in the next months coming. So Now I'll stay on the Canucks because the Canucks have been kind of busy in the European free agent market lately. Signed 2 Swedes, Nils Aman and Filip Johansson, who was biggest one is Filip Johansson. He was drafted by the Minnesota Wild in 2018, first round pick. You want to say probably is a bust as a first round pick because he hasn't played in the NHL yet. Wild said, we don't want to sign you. They got a second round pick out of the deal. What do you think? Do you think any of these guys are going to pan out in the NHL, or is this just kind of throw darts? The Canucks are just throwing darts at the wall, see if they hit something.
I think it's a mix of both. I mean, obviously their depth isn't as strong, so you want to try and, get other teams' prospects that maybe didn't quite pan out because they have an opportunity to play with here. And I think Nils Aman has a better shot than Filip Johansson at this point, because you've talked about this a number of times. The Canucks need center depth. Mm-hmm. They have plenty of talent on the wing. I mean, when he has 14 points in 51 games with Leksand this season. Looked really good also at the World Championships, 2 points in 7 games, but then again, Sweden kind of fell off towards the end. I think maybe he could provide some stability in the bottom 6 as a third or fourth liner. Have that offensive mindset, kind of be a physical presence because he got good size. He can be a factor, and on puck battles because he is a hard worker. I'll give him that. I think that he would have more of a chance to succeed with the Canucks than I think with Johansson at this point, because nothing about his game or his development really screams that, he deserves a chance to have a shot at earning a roster spot. And I think he needs to prove himself quite a bit in order for that to happen, especially on a team like the Canucks, even though they need defensemen. I don't see that quite happening with him, but I would say maybe Aman has a better chance than Johansson overall.
Aman's one of those hardworking bottom 6 type guys the Canucks have needed in the past here. And I think one thing about him is that after they signed him, they were talk that he doesn't want to play in the AHL. He'll play in Sweden until there's an NHL roster spot available or something that he can win. A lot of people have said, well, what the heck is that? He's signing a guy who doesn't want to come to the AHL. I don't know. Like, I think he's got a point. He'd like to play in the NHL, but I'm not one to gift these guys roster spots just because we sign you. One of your stipulations that you don't want to play in our development league. I don't know about that, but we'll see if they can convince him to kind of come over to the North America eventually, like they did with Linus Karlsson. He's coming over now. So we'll see. I mean, they do got some connections with Alvin as the general manager. Everyone's kind of getting on the Canucks now. Canucks are only going to sign Swedes now. I mean, well, that's where his specialty is. He's got connections over there. So they work. Who cares if they're Swedish? And it's not like the Canucks have not been a Swedish based type team. They get a lot of Swedes. They got the Sedins, Naslund, go down the line, Pedersen, Höglander. I mean, it's not like this management group isn't the first ones to get Swedes on this team. So
not only that, he's 22. So obviously maybe if he does maybe start off and then work his way up, and if he continues to work, maybe. So he's still young. So it's still time to develop as well. And I think that would probably be best for him. And maybe I understand he wants to make the NHL right away, but that isn't necessarily the case. And they want to take their time and see what they got. That's what training camp is for. That's what the preseason is for. You want to see more of a sample size on how he can translate over here. And if not, maybe you send him down, let him say, hey, you got some promise, but we want to see a little bit more.
Yeah. And on Johansson's side, he, in the press release after they signed him, said he's going to keep developing over in Sweden. So he's not coming over to the Abbotsford Canucks. He will be still in Sweden in next season. So a couple new prospects for me to add to the prospects report, which is great because I was kind of losing out a few guys. Utanen, now they're not signing, so he's not part of that anymore. And always great to have new guys to follow and report on. So keep signing them, because then I can have bigger reports for everyone. So, which I love doing. So get some new guys in the system, and we'll talk about them. Let's get into a prospect that has been. He was a big guy after the playoffs in 2020. Big guy for the Columbus Blue Jackets, Liam Foudy. He was re-signed to a 2-year deal yesterday. We're recording this on the 18th. He was re-signed to this deal on June 17th. Does he see a full-time role in Columbus? He only played one game, had a shoulder injury that he dealt with. And question is, first, that question, does he have a full-time role? And has his ceiling changed now that after that stand-up playoffs, everyone kind of thought he's going to be NHLer next season? Hasn't really panned out to being that. Does he still have that high ceiling in Liam Foudy here?
He's 22 again. He still has time, but then again, the window's slowly closing to try and get that high ceiling that he was supposed to be, maybe top 6, but maybe now he's looking to be a third liner energy kind of, centerman. And the fact that it remains is he's a quick player. Like his speed is absolutely fantastic. And I think that's a sticking point why his ceiling is still pretty high, because he's one of the quickest players out there. And he was in his draft year, he was for Team Canada. And even, during that bubble against the Maple Leafs, you saw the speed on display with Foudy. It's more so just trying to find that consistency. And I think right now with the Blue Jackets, still developing, still in that rebuilding kind of phase, I think that maybe they just want to see a little bit more out of him to try and get a better read on where they see him in terms of the lineup. But at the moment right now, because other players are stepping up, and you saw the impact that Ken Johnson has as a centerman, Cole Sillinger right now, I think he's being pushed down the depth chart in terms of center. So I think maybe you're looking at him as a third line energy kind of player that can play in all situations, second power play, top penalty kill kind of thing. So I think maybe it's changing from more of that, top 6 upside to more of that bottom 6 utility all around kind of player with Foudy.
Yeah, I think it's probably trending that way too. And the thing is, the Blue Jackets are going to add more at the draft this year, and potentially another centerman is going to be added to the pool. So the more time goes on, this is what happens with prospects. The more guys get added, especially with teams that get high picks, and these guys get pushed down quicker. And you start seeing that a lot more. They have to start panning out, or they're going to be pushed out of the team entirely. He could be traded then. And, you've got to that's the problem. You say you want to wait for prospects to develop and be patient. Then you got other players that push them further and further down the depth chart, and then they get traded. So you're like, well, you're trying to be patient, but you got other guys kind of making that difficult to do that. So we'll see what happens with Foudy. Like you said, the speed is he's still got great speed, and that's going to keep him in the NHL as a bottom 6 at least. And so he'll probably be in the NHL somewhere. Either be Columbus or somewhere else if they decide to trade him. I don't know. There hasn't been really a lot of rumors about that, but we'll see what happens with Foudy for sure. Let's get to our final segment, Prospects of the Week, which we're going to repeat ourselves, but these guys deserve to be spotlighted again. So Peter, let's start with you. Who's your Prospect of the Week?
Yeah, it's going to Xavier Bourgault from the Shawinigan Cataractes. And we, again, talked about him extensively before, how his two-way game and newfound goal-scoring abilities is just taking to new heights with his play this season during the QMJHL playoffs, and, just overall his value as a prospect for the Edmonton Oilers right now. He was a top prospect in the top 100. He's moved up that list for next season. And even overall, 175 points in 43 games, 1.74 point per game average for the regular season, and 22 points in 16 games already. So he's just an absolutely dynamic player on both sides of the puck. The size, the shot, the smarts, it's just always on display with him. And he never takes a shift off, always on the go. I just can't say enough good things about him. He was absolutely lights out in the final series. And, now he has a chance to try and prove himself a little bit more in the Memorial Cup. You're, again, 3 powerhouse teams. One's going to have to go home. Bourgault is definitely going to be one of those players to try and lead the charge and get Shawinigan to, glory again, just like all the other teams wanting that second trophy this season.
Yeah, and that's a great pick. The thing is, and I'm going to go with another guy we've talked about extensively, Mason McTavish.
Yeah.
I picked him as tournament MVP, and he's just, like I say, he's just an NHL player already. And you look at him on the ice, it looks like he's a 30-year-old NHL player the way he looks. And we've talked about it a lot. He's got the size, he's got the skill, he's got that goal scoring mentality. He's going to be a dominant player in the NHL when he makes it. He's already made it. I mean, he did score and look pretty good. I think they sent him back because he wasn't going to get a lot of ice time. And that was a big thing. He gets a chance in the playoffs. He gets a chance in the Memorial Cup to maybe win one there. Great experience for him to be down in the OHL. Like I said, he shouldn't be here, but it's still great experience for him. He plays a ton instead of playing very little minutes in a bottom 6 role in Anaheim. By the time he makes it there this coming season, he'll probably be at for sure top 6 because Ryan Getzlaf retired. And now you got Zegras and McTavish. There's your top 2 centermen. And that's a pretty good 1-2 punch. If it's going to be good for a number of years. So McTavish is my pick for prospect of the week for all those reasons and more, because he's going to be really fun to watch in the NHL moving forward, and definitely deserving of that top 5 pick. Or what is he? 6th overall. He was 6th overall pick. So, or was he 3rd? My gosh.
He was 3rd.
I don't know how
he was
3rd overall.
Yeah.
So I was right. Top 5. 3rd overall pick. That's, very well deserving of that choice by the Anaheim Ducks, because he's going to be I'm going to say he's probably going to be like a Ryan Getzlaf down the line, because he's got similar attributes, and not saying he's going to be what Getzlaf did in the NHL, because that's pretty massive to put on him, but he definitely's got the skill to be that type of player. So it's going to be fun to watch. I just don't like he's in the Pacific Division, but yeah. That was a fun episode. Memorial Cup is just around the corner on Monday, so have fun watching that. And of course, the Stanley Cup finals going on, and the NHL draft is now less than a month away. After I said less than a month last week, it is now less than a month away. Or last time we got together, now it is less than a month. It's actually 2.5 weeks away now. Yeah. So it's coming up fast. And we got our prospect profiles coming out every day. We're upwards, 160?
151.
151. So we've got a few to go to get to our 180 or so that we did last year, but we'll be getting there. Lots of prospect profiles, lots of features. Top 10 pieces have been coming out like crazy in the last couple of weeks. So definitely check all that out at thehockeywriters.com. Thanks, Peter, for joining again. Prospect Corner here. We'll have Devin back next week to talk more prospects. Thanks for watching. And of course, sign up for the Morning Skate newsletter. It's a great source of information, fun facts, fun stuff every morning, Monday to Friday. Definitely check all that out. Check out our THW podcast, which is also a Monday to Friday thing as well. And hit that QR code that's on your screen right now to go to thehockeywriters.com directly and check out all the stories there. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time in the Prospect Corner.